South Sudan's energy crossroads, the case for micro-refineries. South Sudan, a nation rich in oil reserves, the very resource that fuels its economy, contributing nearly 90% of its GDP. Yet, paradoxically, it heavily relies on importing expensive refined fuels like diesel and gasoline to power its homes, vehicles, and industries. Why? Because despite sitting on vast reserves, South Sudan has very limited capacity to refine its own crude oil. The only significant operational facility, the Bentiu refinery, produces just a fraction of the nation's needs. This reliance on imports creates vulnerability to price shocks, supply disruptions, and hinders economic growth. But what if there was a solution? What if South Sudan could process its own oil closer to where it's needed? This is where the concept of micro-oil refineries comes in. Today we're exploring the feasibility. Can building small-scale localized refineries work in South Sudan? We'll dive into the potential, the challenges, and what it would take to turn this idea into reality. First, let's understand South Sudan's oil industry today. Production centers mainly around the Muglad and Melut basins. They produce different types of crude Nile blend, a desirable medium crude, Dar blend, heavier and more acidic, posing some refining challenges, and Fula blend, also acidic, mainly used locally. A major bottleneck is transportation. Crude oil for export travels through pipelines across neighboring Sudan. This reliance is risky. Political instability and technical issues in Sudan frequently disrupt exports and South Sudan's crucial revenue stream. Developing in-country refining is strategically vital. Current refining capacity? Minimal. The Bentiu modular refinery produces around 5,000 to 10,000 barrels per day, mostly diesel, heavy fuel oil, and naphtha. While ambitious plans exist for larger refineries, the immediate gap remains huge. And the potential supply? South Sudan aims to pump around 90,000 barrels per day soon, with aspirations to reach pre-conflict levels and beyond. Estimates suggest up to 90% of reserves are still untapped. Securing feedstock for a micro-refinery seems achievable, provided logistical hurdles are overcome. So is there a market for locally refined products? Absolutely. South Sudan needs diesel, gasoline, and kerosene for everything transport, power generation in homes and businesses, especially off-grid, agriculture, and industry. Currently, most of this demand is met by imports, making the country vulnerable. While precise consumption data is scarce, the sheer volume of imports tells the story. There's a substantial domestic need. Market prices fluctuate, but recent reports from Juba show unsubsidized fuel around 90 cents to $1.20 per liter. This indicates a viable price point where a local refinery, potentially offering more stable and possibly lower prices, could compete effectively against imports. Capturing even a portion of this import market presents a significant opportunity for a micro-refinery, boosting energy security and potentially lowering costs across the economy. Building a refinery isn't just about pipes and tanks, it involves navigating a complex regulatory environment. Key players include the Ministry of Petroleum, which handles licensing, and the national oil company, NILPET. The Ministry of Environment is crucial, enforcing environmental protection rules. Governing laws like the Petroleum Act of 2012 mandate environmental impact assessments, a critical step for any project. Health, safety, and environment regulations also demand high standards. Getting permits involves multiple agencies. There's no single window process. It requires careful planning, likely needing local legal expertise. Ensuring compliance, especially with environmental standards, is non-negotiable for project approval and long-term operation. Let's talk money. What does it cost, and can it be profitable? Capital costs for a mini or modular refinery can range significantly, perhaps from $10 million up to $40 or $50 million, depending on size and complexity. Costs include land, construction, equipment, environmental studies, and permits. Operating expenses are also substantial. Crude oil feedstock is the biggest chunk. Labor, energy, crucial in an area with limited power, maintenance and compliance add up. Accessing local crude at a good price is key. Revenue comes from selling the refined products, diesel, gasoline, kerosene, into that waiting local market. Profitability hinges on the crack spread, the difference between the crude oil cost and the refined product selling price. Given the reliance on imports, the potential to substitute these with local production makes the economics look promising. Modular refineries are known for being potentially viable, even at smaller scales, and can adapt to demand fluctuations. While the potential is clear, the path is fraught with challenges. Political instability and security concerns are significant in South Sudan. The country's history of conflict and current tensions pose substantial risks to investment, infrastructure, and operations. Additionally, there are notable infrastructure gaps. Poor road conditions make transporting crude and finished products both difficult and costly, especially during the rainy seasons. Limited reliable electricity and water supply mean that a refinery might need to build its own costly utilities. Finding enough trained local personnel for technical and managerial roles is a challenge, often leading to reliance on expensive expatriate staff initially. Investment in training is essential. Furthermore, refineries produce emissions and waste. Strict adherence to environmental impact assessment findings, pollution control, and proper waste management are critical but challenging in this context. Some South Sudanese crude, like the Dar blend, is acidic, requiring special materials in the refinery to prevent corrosion. Waxy crude, such as the Nile blend, might need extra processing steps like dewaxing to meet fuel quality standards, adding complexity and cost. South Sudan isn't alone in exploring smaller refineries. Let's look at Africa. Nigeria has several operational modular refineries, often linked to specific oil fields. They produce essential fuels for their local markets. However, a recurring challenge, even there, has been securing consistent crude oil feedstock from the national oil company. This is a critical lesson. Reliable feedstock agreements are paramount. Other nations like Angola and Senegal are also pursuing similar projects. The success of smaller operations like the Ogbele refinery in Nigeria shows that micro-refineries can effectively serve local needs and reduce import dependence. We know South Sudan has oil with blends like Nile, Dar, and Fula. There's enough to supply a micro-refinery. The real challenge is logistics. How do you get the crude from the oil field to the refinery site efficiently and affordably? Existing pipelines mainly go to Sudan for export. Using them for domestic supply needs negotiation. Road transport is tough. River transport is possible but seasonal. Transport costs, whether via Sudan or developing local routes, add up. Therefore, choosing a refinery location strategically, minimizing distance from crude sources, and leveraging any existing infrastructure is absolutely vital for economic success. So is building a micro-oil refinery in South Sudan feasible? Our analysis suggests yes, but conditionally. The opportunity is undeniable, meeting a clear domestic need with local resources, enhancing energy security, and fostering economic activity. Modular technology makes smaller-scale projects more accessible. However, success hinges on navigating significant hurdles: political risk, major infrastructure deficits, regulatory complexities, environmental stewardship, and logistical challenges in getting crude oil to the site. What's the path forward? Start focused. Target key local demands like diesel first. Use modular tech. Leverage its flexibility, lower cost, and faster deployment. Choose location wisely, minimize transport issues, consider utility access. Engage early. Work closely with government ministries for permits. Plan for risks. Develop strong security and contingency plans. Invest locally. Train the South Sudanese workforce. Prioritize environment. Adhere to strict EIA and operational standards. Conduct detailed study. A full site-specific feasibility study with detailed financial modeling is the essential next step. Building a micro-refinery in South Sudan is not a simple undertaking. It requires careful planning, significant investment, robust risk management, and strong partnerships. But if these challenges can be met, it holds the potential to significantly contribute to the nation's energy independence, economic development, and a more prosperous future for its people. Outro music and credits, end screen contact information or link for further details, relevant ministry websites, sponsoring organization logos,